Hello, everyone, and welcome. We do apologize. We had a technical issue, as you could understand, but now we are back on track. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Rita Garcia. I'm head of the business development at NSM Lawyers. I'm joined by Gonçalo Mendes Leal today, lawyer and founding partner of NSM. In today's session, we are going to discuss what has changed for current and prospective investors following the recent updates to the nationality law in Portugal, which entered into force on May 19th. We have now a renewed pathway towards citizenship, with these updates introducing a stronger emphasis on demonstrating a genuine connection to the country, to Portugal. One key change is the extension of the requirement from 5 to 10 years of legal residency in Portugal, with no grandfathering provisions or transition periods, making a clear shift in how the citizenship path is structured going forward. I believe what people want to know is, what does this mean in practical terms, Gonçalo?
Good afternoon. Thank you very much, Rita, for once again hosting these sessions. I think that the first thing that is important to highlight is that these changes are only into the citizenship process. So there is no adjustments done in this moment, or that we can imagine that will happen in the future regarding the golden visa process itself. So in practical terms, this will apply to the new investors, to the new clients that are going to make their investments from now on. And in practical terms, we have already said this before, we agree with the logical of this new pathway to citizenship, creating this stronger link with the community, with the country itself, with the culture, administrative system. So we agree in general terms with the law. The adaptation for the clients that are caught in the middle of the bridge is a different thing, but in general terms, we are agreeing with this new approach from the government.
Exactly. It's a filter, not a barrier. This perspective applies to new investors, the one you mentioned. In your opinion, what do you think these amendments mean for applicants who have already submitted their applications? I'm sure we have a lot of people in this position in the audience. So, meaning prior to the new law coming into effect.
So I think that we need to divide the investors in three different groups at the end. So the first group is the group that has already submitted the application for citizenship. This case, they will not be affected by any of these changes, so their process is on the way. It's taking some time, we all know that, but they are secure in that position, and they will not be affected with the changes of the law. Then we have a second group that in the previous session we have called it the early citizenship applicants, that were in a moment in the process that they were not yet in the 5-year period, but they were close enough to submit their application before the changes of the law. So normally, just to add that information, normally the process of citizenship is taking around 2 years and a half. So what we advise our clients was to submit their application, considering that if they did the initial submission of the process of golden visa before the beginning of 2024, they could be in a better position to defend their rights towards the future on the citizenship process. Then we have the third group, which is the people, the investors that submit their golden visa applications after 2024. In this case, the path is more difficult because we didn't submit any early citizenship application on them. But the strategy that we are following at NSM is to make these investors arrive to the same position of the to be able to submit an early citizenship application, so more or less 2 years and a half before they make the 5 years, submit their application anyway, independently of this new law being enforced, and then, depending on the answer that IRN will give us, defend case by case the process in court if there is a negative decision from IRN.
Very well. That brings me to a question that I think is very recent, from beginning of this week, maximum last week, I think. In the media and online forums, there have been discussions about class actions, complaints to the regulatory authorities, and claims for financial compensation. What's your opinion and NSM's position on this? What's the advice and best course of action for each applicant?
So, it's a very good question. We are receiving a lot of that questions coming from the clients. What I do believe is that I can understand the position of different law firms and lawyers on this. From the legal perspective, maybe this could be a path. In my personal opinion, and in the opinion of the team at NSM, we don't believe that this is the path that we should follow. First of all, because most of these class actions, they will take years to get a final decision. They are too big to handle in terms of the judicial system. So I imagine that easily we can be speaking about 6, 7, 8 years of legal actions. Also, from the perspective of damage and proving the damage, I think that it's going to be very, very hard to explain to a judge or into a legal case the real effect or the real losses that the clients had during this moment. Of course, they have made their investments, but their investments here, as we are going to speak after, they are giving returns, they are generating returns. So I think there is, from the legal perspective, a serious issue around that. Also, I think there is some doubts, or at least I have doubts in the sense that if this could be or should be the first step when you want to enter a country and to become a citizen of a country, to start a process with a massive action against the government. I think that in terms of position of each client individually, it's hard. It's a hard thing to explain to the clients. And finally, I think that also from the financial perspective, so all this process of golden visa and citizenship, as you all know, it's expensive. So it demands an investment from the clients, and making all these movements in the legal framework, I would say that it's going to cost the clients a lot of money too, so a lot of legal fees, and at the end nobody can grant the results. So our position is not we believe that we should look at this case by case, decision by decision. So in each moment of the process, if we have a negative answer, so study and act based on that, but individually. And for that, we are already in contact with one of the biggest law firms in Portugal that will work together with NSM to prepare a legal action for these reactions from the IRN perspective. So when we have, if we have a negative answer from the IRN, we will be prepared to defend the client's position. Mm-hmm. But at this point, I don't believe that class actions are the solution for the clients.
Thank you. I think it was important to say that and for people to hear that. Before we dive deeper, we have also invited C2 Capital and 3 Capital to join us and share their perspectives. Francisco Amaral from C2 Capital and Nuno Serafim from 3 Capital. They manage Golden Visa eligible funds. Both firms are highly regarded and well established within the Golden Visa ecosystem, and NSM is pleased to share a significant number of clients with both. We are especially interested in learning their perspectives on how the recent changes have impacted client behavior, investment decisions, and investor sentiment overall. Nuno, let me start with you. Given that your funds are open-ended, therefore with more flexibility for investors, how have 3 investors reacted to these changes to the nationality law?
First of all, thank you for the invitation. Thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure to collaborate and work almost on a daily basis with you. So regarding the situation, so for us in our specific case, I think the investor reactions have been quite muted. So relatively, my clients have been relatively relaxed, probably because they are investing to open-ended their liquidity fund, so they know they can leave whatever they want technically. So I think they have so far so good. We have had something like among 500 investors, like handful of redemptions. So it's not very relevant. But obviously, I think they are more. I think they are concerned overall, right? So they had some expectations. Bear in mind that they are looking for a plan B most of the cases. So this change into the rules, and normally they look also for legal stability and jurisdiction safety, and this type of switch in terms of the policies. And I think that the laws of golden visa, directly or indirectly, have been off changed like 4 times or 3 times in the last 4 years. So it's not the best approach. So it's normal they are a bit concerned. But I think overall, I expect, and most of the clients know of this potential change of the law since May or April last year. So actually, that was already on the news. So they have made informed decisions. So in our case, we have always been very transparent regarding the Golden Visa program. We basically try to set up good investment propositions, and that's what we need to do going forward. So I think eventually the Golden Visa program will lose some of its appeal, but I think we need to compensate that with transparent products, excellent level of service, and delivering good performance. And I think we'll be able to retain most of the clients. For some of those clients, being instead of 7 years that used to be more or less the perspectives because of the backlog, now moving to 10 for some of them is not really critical. For some of them, eventually is. But yes, I'm betting everything on what we know and what we basically, with our value proposition, which is basically to offer a good investment, a flexible, transparency, and at least a diversification to their savings with this cherry on the top of the cake, which is basically the plan B for them.
Thank you. That's great input. Francisco, how have your clients reacted over the past few days? We know that C2 has an open-ended fund as well, but for the purpose of this discussion regarding your close-ended fund, so we can have both perspectives here. Have you noticed a shift in the questions investors are asking or in their commitment?
Thank you, Rita. And first of all, thank you, NSM, for the invitation as well. It's always a pleasure to meet again. And as the same is shared by Nuno, as working daily, it's always a pleasure to be here with you in this event. Very good question. Our experience, and I'm going to focus on more on the Med Capital. I know that you know what it is, a fund that was launched in 2020. So we have already a couple of investors, and we are talking about more than 250 investors that have committed during that time frame, and they were relatively close to what was discussed back then. So in the last, I think the general answer is concern, for sure. But I can completely relate with what Nuno said. It is a handful of them. I do believe that the majority of investors have very good support on the legal side, so which help them as well. Our strategy was to make the bridge between investors and asset manager very, very straight, being in constant relationship with them. Of course, my agenda was a little bit full, but I do believe it's important for investors to have answers. And the majority of them, surprisingly, they commented right in the beginning, I'm very happy with the investment. I'm just here, and it was not on a negative tone, was more on the, changes are never good. So they try to forecast what potential things they could do, making sure they meet their objective, which is the end either. As Gonçalo mentioned, the Golden Visa, it didn't change, so they have the opportunity of going through the residency. So either go through the residency or for sure understand what could be their strategy to meet the citizenship. So majority of them, I do believe, generally consensus, concern over the changes, but change always live these kind of things. And in the end of the day, I do believe that both legal and asset manager work close together to make sure that investors were prepared, they were informed, and in the end of the day, I think everything remained relatively calm.
Good. That's good to know. Thank you both. So it looks like the majority of the clients understand the changes, where they come from and their impacts, and they choose to maintain the confidence in the program and their investments. Let's turn to what this means for someone considering the program for the first time today, because it's a different situation. Gonçalo, in your view, is the Portuguese Golden Visa program still in good health?
Yes, I believe so. I think it remains super competitive, stable, and secure. So, what this new law, these amendments to the citizenship law, means it's raising the bar in terms of the connection with the country, in terms of the commitment with the country. So, from that perspective, I think this is good for the investors that will reach the citizenship at that point. So, I think that in a way this will emphasize this relation with the country and this proud, the sense of proud being part of the country. So I think that when you compare with the other inside of the ecosystem of the golden visas with the other countries of Europe mainly, I would say that Portugal's the Portuguese golden visa remains the most appealing one. First of all, because of the minimum level of investment, the period of stay, and there is a pathway to citizenship that now is similar to all the countries, but in Portugal we still have the advantage of this 10-year period doesn't demand actual relocation. So you can still have this 7-day period per year, and this is what I think is turnkey in terms of the decision of the client on continuing looking at this as a very good option and a plan B.
From that perspective, it's still the best residency program in Europe.
That's it, yeah.
This brings me to my next question. There seems to be great confusion between residency and citizenship benefits. Could you explain the key differences, maybe walk us through the pros and cons of each?
Yeah, I think that especially during this almost 1 year, as Nuno was saying, of debate around citizenship, people actually forgot what was the difference between the two realities. And in the Portuguese case, I think it's very important to explain this to the investors. The differences are not that big. So actually the residency and the citizenship, the big change between one thing and the other is clearly the fact that you can vote after getting the Portuguese citizenship, and you can live freely in the other Schengen countries that because of the Portuguese citizenship you can access. But actually the plan B was not living in third countries. The plan B was relocating, or at least have the chance of relocating into Portugal. So from that perspective, I think that again, it's a change, it's a difference, it's a different system, and we all agree that it would be better if it was only 5 years instead of 10. But the main targets of the clients when they submit their initial application are not jeopardized by any means. So they can have a path to arrive to citizenship. It's longer, but again, it creates different ties with the country, creates a different commitment, and I think at the end, it's most important for the clients.
So to be clear, Golden Visa investors maintain all residency rights, correct? The ability to live and work in Portugal, travel freely within the EU and Schengen area, and to benefit from family reunification as well. All of these remain unchanged.
Totally, yeah.
What has changed is the timeline towards citizenship eligibility. I believe that to make this clear was extremely important for our viewers, the distinction between the residency and citizenship. Nuno, beyond residency and citizenship, what is attracting investors to Portugal? When potential investors reach out to you at 3 Comma, what are they typically asking about?
Okay, now obviously the program still has a lot of competitive advantages comparing to the other residency by investment programs in Europe. That's clear, and I think we won't have any challenge regarding that. So that's still a very competitive program, still probably, as Gonçalo mentioned, is the best program. So besides that, and normally we are taking care of the money of the client, so we have a high responsibility on that. So actually we start to discuss a lot of stuff with them. Why Portugal, right? So most of the clients, they have they like what Portugal has to offer, and obviously we are biased, but we have good weather, we have nice people, we have nice food, and besides that, our infrastructure is not that bad. Safety, very, very important. We have good education, good universities. Although we complain every day, actually we have I don't know, top 10 public health system in the world, so and it's completely free. So these are big advantages and big competitive advantages that we still have to offer, and I think we'll keep doing that. On our case, because we are investment managers, so sometimes what they look is a trustworthy partner to manage their money, right? And sometimes a big portion of their money. So we have a high responsibility to deliver good results. We are basically embodied with a big fiduciary responsibility, and we are obsessed by delivering good results.
You feel the weight of the responsibility.
We feel the weight actually at Tricoma, and we have something that is not that normal, but all the employees, they are invested into our funds. So actually that does not mean that we'll always be the best, but we are completely aligned with the objectives of our investors. So actually we are everyone.
You believe what you preach.
We believe in what you preach. So we are completely obsessed by offering a good value proposition. Our funds are transparent, flexible, liquid, and actually one thing that is really important is the communication. So we tend to be very extensive in terms of explaining what is happening with the fund, where the return is coming, or where the return is not coming from. So it's really important. So our main focus is to offer diversified, intelligent, and good value proposition type of investments, because on the end of the day, that's what we are. You take care of the legal side, we take care of the investment. So that's basically that.
And it works. Francisco, let me ask you, is it the same at C2 Capital? And who are these potential investors? Where do they come from? Because I would say that at NSM, about 80% of our clients are coming from the US or even more. Are you seeing a strong demand from the US as well?
For sure. I do believe that from initial point of view, all the factors that are happening worldwide impact, and people always try to see a and B. Then US, of course, I do believe the US population is 350 million. So it's a lot. Yes, definitely, I would say 75 to 80% is US folks. But one of the key things that we are currently seeing is a more sophistication towards the decision making, and more comparisons, more questions on strategy, on like Nuno said, we have a very, very big responsibility, and actually this is a very good thing for them to actually perform a very high due diligence on the asset managers that
they challenge you as well and help you grow in that sense.
For sure. And on that, like, I do believe that it lifts a little bit the requirement for being super professional and actually completely aligned, designing good solutions, because in the end of the day we are taking care of the money of investors. So with that, I do believe that we at C2, we always have a philosophy of designing good strategies, not golden visa strategies. And what I mean by that is, yes, we know that there is a big demand of a golden visa, but the strategies that we empower at home are strategies that are a fit for golden visa investors, for institutional investors, for every investor. We believe in them. We have as well the same policy. We invest money in the fund, so interests are aligned. Remuneration is aligned. Although the majority of the track record of C2 Capital, and I would say 90%, is closed-ended funds, namely in private equity, there is actually, I do feel a little bit the responsibility of explaining better, because it's not as a more traditional asset class where people are normally invested in. So it requires more explanation and more transparency towards the counterparties that we analyze as a firm, the assets and the risk mitigation tools that we develop in-house that somehow protect the investors, which are, in the end of the day, one of the most valuable assets that we have at C2. So for sure, US for sure is a big demand. I do believe Americans are currently on the top one, very, very far away for the second most nationality that applies. So yes, for sure.
Yeah, it's the same for us. Given so, how easy is it for US investors to access golden visa funds? I mean, really practically speaking.
One of the things, since the beginning, and our first golden visa fund was 2020, as I mentioned, but since then we try always to do a couple things. One of them is understanding who is the person that is on the other part of the world that is trying to pursue, understanding their reality. Then both teams in-house, and we are talking not only from the investor relation part and the sales part, but as well compliance, how they understand and they try to mitigate at the best of their ability the bureaucracy that involves the application.
That's helpful.
The idea, it's always help. It's always being productive and proactive. So a couple of things. We understand their reality nowadays because in an onboarding with KYC metrics and so forth, we need to understand the geography that is in. So we currently are very, very, I would not say proficient in US, but we are fluent. And in majority of the clients have more or less the same sources and so we can tackle pretty easy. Then there are a couple of initiatives that we've developed in-house as well, and I do believe that has been followed by the industry as well, which is a custody agreement where we can eliminate the necessity of necessity of opening a bank account, which we all know it's the clear bottleneck of the application process. So with that, we somehow eliminate the bureaucracy and it's not just Portugal, it's European continent as a whole. Normally you say US invents, Asia imitates, and Europe regulates. So we are super subregulated continent. So we try to mitigate the most, making sure that the path towards the submission of the application is as smooth as possible.
Perfect. Nuno, back to you. Are you seeing investors use self-directed IRA or 401ks? And what should they know about tax, compliance, and PFIX?
Okay. No. Yes, we have some clients. I cannot quantify, but I don't know, 20% of the US investors, they use their SDRAs to invest. Actually, it's quite convenient because the money is there, so the cost of opportunity is almost zero. They need to deploy the money in an intelligent way. And
that they couldn't touch either way, so
they need to invest, right?
Yeah.
And so that's when it comes the value proposition, and makes all the sense because we live in a multipolar world, right? A lot of friction, a lot of noise. Geopolitics are not also stable, so. I think it's smart for the US investors to diversify a bit because technically they were normally very, very exposed to US assets. So this is a way that they can have exposure to the euro economy. They can embrace new regions and new asset classes. So I think it makes all the sense. And for us, obviously, is also something that we had to understand how it works and how it affects, in this case, does not harmfully affect, obviously, the tax situation of the investor in the US. But actually, the savings accounts in US, being 401ks, IRAs, and SDRAs, are the biggest pool of assets in the world. It's more or less $45 trillion, so it's basically 35% of the money that have been that are on the funds worldwide. So it's really a big chunk of money that is available there. So it's a huge market. So yes, the clients enter a bit into technicalities. I don't like to speak about some technicalities in US because I'm not a tax advisor in US, but actually in normal terms you can, depending on your employment situation, you can roll your IRA or your 401k into IRA or directly into SDRA, and then after having this SDRA you can basically execute your investment from the US. Needs to be eligible investment and needs to be a non-forbidden operation, and we take care of that actually on our side, making sure that all the proceeds are basically paid back to the SDRA and not to the client directly, because that can be damaging for the client. But apart from that, it's basically an investment that can be executed as any other personal investment with some technicalities, some careful. Is more intense in terms of bureaucratic work, because we need basically to liaise with the SDRA custodians in US, and we work with 5 or 6, and they
They're
know
very
already
used to
the
do
product.
that process.
They're very used to do that product. Yeah.
And let me add just one thing, and I would like you to comment on that. But one thing that I'm seeing that is changing a little bit in the last years is that the logical of investment of U.S. clients right now, in the beginning, was only focused based on the logical of vehicle for the golden visa, and right now it's a clear option of investment. They are starting looking outside of US to change a little bit the eggs from different baskets, not to have everything. I don't know if you feel that.
I feel that, yeah. So actually, there is a rationale for that. The last 40 years have been incredible for the US stock market, right? Stock market and US companies are the best in the world. They perform better than the European and Asian and emerging markets, even comparing with the Portuguese stocks, European stocks. Although Portuguese stocks have been quite well in the last couple of years, have done and delivering very good results. But actually, with this bipolar work and bipolar world and some instability in the US, politician instability, mainly, for the first time I have seen, I'm working on the financial industry for 25 years, more time than I would like to count, right? But actually it's the first time in 25 years that I see proactively the financial advisors in the US recommending clients to embrace other regions and new asset classes, to invest in Europe, to invest in emerging markets, and to diversify from the dollar. So I think, and actually only if some investment did not deliver anything reasonable or anything meaningful in 2025, only the shift from dollars to euros in 2025 basically delivered for the US investor 14%, because dollar basically lost 14% against the euro. So only by that movement, the currency movement. So if on the top of that you could have like 4 or 5 or 10 or 15% depending, or 20% depending on the level of risk that you are that you want to accept, it has been a very good investment for most of the investors, at least on the last 2 years.
I would just like to add one thing, and actually the meetings and the follow-ups normally that we had from investors that invest in 2021 and the requirements that they demanded from us clearly shifted to a much more sophisticated currently comparing to back then. And for sure that nowadays, majority of the meetings and that we have either with investors or either with financial advisors, which a lot of Americans use their financial advisor. Before was to look at red flags. Currently, it's okay. How does this fit within my overall portfolio? Yeah. And in the past few months, the mindset has been diversification first. If I can have my cherry on top with the golden visa, that's perfect. But from a diversification perspective, this is actually very, 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 very good.
Well, thank you all. I'm going to shift the conversation a little bit now, just to give you an idea. Time runs fast. We have about 20 minutes, and we still need to dive into the Q&A. But Francisco, if you can summarize from your perspective, how do these investments contribute to Portugal, but beyond the purely financial and structural aspects?
Okay. Tough question, but actually from a closed-end perspective, it's actually, and within our track record, is actually very, very straightforward to deliver the answer. The Mer Capital, and I mentioned twice as already in the session, it was a healthcare-driven strategy towards the economy. It was a closed-ended, pure private equity. Our idea was to make a consolidation within the healthcare system. One of the assets that we finalized to include in the portfolio was the construction of a brand new hospital in the interior of Portugal, where the private healthcare system was not very present. And as you all know, and we are here just Portuguese, the public healthcare system can, although it's one of the best in the world, can drive for minor surgeries or minor appointments a struggle. So we are building a top-end private sector within a very critical area, which is Covilhã, which for the ones that don't know, it's a very small city in Portugal, but it's strategically located between Guarda and Castelo Branco, which are two medium to high density area locations. So within that, we can offer a clear impact on the build of an hospital, and which have direct effect within the population that is there.
And that's beautiful work. I guess it's easier to understand this kind of contribution with the closed-ended funds, given where they are investing. But is this also true when considering open-ended funds, Nuno?
No, absolutely. I think the dilemma is not about being open-ended or closed-ended funds. It's about the investment policy that each fund wants to pursue, right? So on our case, we offer multi-asset funds and bond funds. And we have the elected part of our funds are basically towards bonds. So actually, we buy Portuguese corporate bonds. So that means that we invest directly into the capital structure of the company, and providing or at least reducing some of the weakest points of the Portuguese economy, which has basically lack of capital on one end, and second, too much dependency on bank loans. And we know on our history that dependency actually was a problem in the past. Like between 2008 and 2014, we had a lot of problems with the financial system. And normally what happens, if the banks are not in good shape, they cannot loan into the economy, and that creates a double-way risk. So on one end, the money does not flow to the economy, and the banks cannot provide what they are supposed to do, which is basically to finance and to give funding to the good projects. On the other hand, when there is a recession, and even if it's a recession not triggered by the financial system, it's normally a recession, like COVID is a recession that was not triggered by problems on the financial system. What normally happens is that the banks, they tighten their credit standards, so because they are afraid that because the economy is slowing down, and that will create more problem for the companies, and obviously they don't want to create risk on their balance sheet. They don't want to have non-performing loans and so forth. So actually they also reduce the loan to the economy, which makes the economy quite more exposed to cyclical factors, and that is basically a big weakness of our economy. So growing the assets under management of funds like ours, that basically creates more resilience to the Portuguese economy, because it allows the economy not to be only relying on banking loans, but we basically there are other institutions like us that can finance the economy in a different way, right? So buying their bonds. So that I think that's really important, because creates resilience and creates jobs and actually augments the potential growth of the economy, right? So I think the average person I think they can understand this. Even the funds that invest into equities, in public equities, there are some discussions on that, if they are really financing the economy. But actually by the fact that they are basically contributing for a more efficient capital markets in Portugal, it's also quite important, because actually is another way of diversifying the capital structure of the companies, because the capital markets are more developed, more robust. We have a positive flow, that more companies coming to the stock exchange, and also diversifying the source of financing of the economy. So that is also an important point. So all in all, I think it's not about being closed-ended or open-ended. It's about what they try to pursue in terms of investment policy. And in both cases, one, they can defend that. They can multiply more and can be more efficient in bringing value to the economy. But both, it's not a question of open-ended or closed-ended. It's a question of what they pursue to do.
And I feel that you explained that very well. It was great. Thank you. It was very clear. We can definitely understand now the investors' motivations and the ways that the country benefits from these investments across multiple sectors. Gonçalo, briefly, if you can, do you think that when we are talking about the Golden Visa program, can we say that this is a program that promotes a long-term connection, long-term relationship between investors and the country?
Yeah, I think so. I will try to summarize my opinion on this. I think so. Actually, the logical of the vehicle of investment and the results that the clients are having now with these options of the funds, they create this long-term relation. And one thing that I think resumes a little bit what they just said about this is that on our daily meetings with the clients, or when we are doing road shows outside of Portugal, what we feel is a growth on the questions about how Portugal is seeing the investors, how they can actually contribute to the Portuguese economy. So I think that again, a little bit like Francisco was saying, there is an evolution in the perspective, sophistication, the perspective of the investor, that now is more worried about the impact of their investment and less focus or focus in a different way on the Golden Visa, on the residency and the citizenship.
I have the same feeling. To wrap up, what stands out is that Portugal continues to offer great and structured investment paths, and also strong quality of life and a unique lifestyle. Final question for Francisco and Nuno. The fact that you are both here today is not just a coincidence, right? Is there something special you want to tell us and tell our viewers?
I will kick off, and then Nuno probably can end. Basically, I do believe that since 2024, in C2 the C2 management team had a clear view of having C2 Capital as an asset manager that provides 360-degree services towards clients. Mm-hmm. And as I mentioned as well in this event, our legacy of C2 has been private equity. However, when designing this view, there is growth that is coming organically, and there is growth that it comes inorganically. The organic growth, and as you mentioned as well, we created our first open-ended fund as well, managing the same, more or less same assets that Recoma Capital, but I do believe that in November, December last year, there was some text that was exchanged, there was some dating, there was some tango that was danced, and I do believe Nuno can follow up on the events.
What happened?
No, actually, we started to speak with C2 September, October, and actually, although I was not expecting or not planning to merge anytime soon, or at least in the short run, actually, it makes sense, right? And actually, there is always an empathy, because we need to basically to be on the same page, right? And we have decided, and basically, we have discovered that we were on the same page. Actually, we're very complementary because, as Francisco mentioned, C2 Capital has a lot of experience on private equity. We are a very recent company, but we have been the fastest growing company in 2025. And our specialization, although we have also some private equity and venture capital, more on the venture capital side and early stage investment, but our growth has basically been triggered by open-ended funds. And so actually for the teams were very, very good. We know that there are always some pain in terms of the merger, but in this case was almost painful, right? Apart from all the paperwork and regulatory clearance. Bureaucracy, yeah, sometimes.
Europe.
Congratulations.
Bureaucracy is with you, right? So actually we are, I don't know, I think in a couple, still we are two different entities because we need basically 2 or 3 months for the full regulatory clearance, but I suppose that in July, August will be the same entity. And the idea is that will be a very meaningful entity, altogether managing almost 1 billion euros of assets under management. So we'll be one of the biggest players in Portugal, 50 persons. So that means that our investors will have access to a bigger platform, more specialization, and that is something for me is really important because I think the asset management, almost in all industry, specialization brings value on the long run. Normally, it's not on the short run, but on the long run, specialization gives value. So actually, I think it's a good marriage, and I think
great news for the market.
The clients. I think the clients will be the most beneficiary of this, as obviously the employees and the shareholders.
Congratulations! It seems like a very strategic move. What does this mean? How should we view this in the context of Portugal's overall investment landscape? What is this message sending to the investors that are considering to invest today? Because it looks like it's a clear sign of confidence in the market that you are taking this move.
No, and for sure, to trying not to repeat what Nuno mentioned, but for sure that currently within the same soon-to-be company, people, and talking about bureaucracy, can onboard with just one company and have access to various strategies that take into consideration their risk profile, which in the end of the day, it's the most important thing. But one of the key things is the Golden Visa has impact in the market. The fast-growing company that then produced a merge, and as well the key things that together Nuno, ourselves take in consideration daily is make sure that we take care of the good money and produce good returns, which in the end of the day is our mandate.
Thank you all for your straightforward answers. I think we should go straight to the Q&A session, which our viewers are, of course, waiting for. Allow me a brief moment. All specific case questions that we received from viewers will be addressed in one-to-one meetings, so please reach out to the teams to schedule your meeting, otherwise it would be difficult to discuss them here. So here they are from our viewers. Gonçalo, what legal actions are you pursuing as a group? Are you working with any of the Telegram or WhatsApp Golden Visa legal groups? There are over 800 active members that want to pursue legal action.
Yeah, I think that more or less I have answered that before in our conversation. I'm part of all these groups. This question was addressed by many different law firms to us, to NSM, to find out our views also on this. Again, I repeat, I don't think that this should be the move right now. I think that we should remain with a very logical and strategic pathway to fight this change, especially when they actually affect our clients. So first we want to see exactly how IRN will react to this and then take the next step, which will be for sure, if it's not accepted in the first place, an individual action. I don't think that a class action and a process like this will help the ecosystem will help the investors, and at the end, the program itself. So it's not the way we see the process.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, and for keeping it short. Maybe now for Francisco. What should investors who invested in closed funds with expected liquidation date be planning for if their investment matures before eligible for citizenship?
Great question. Actually, has been one of the key topics that we have been discussed with the investors that I was speaking before. The closed-ended funds are closed-ended just because of the nature of the assets, but they have options available within the regulatory scope. One of them is clearly update the time maturity of the fund. So if all participants or the majority of the participant, and even if it's not the majority of the participant, there are things that we can address, that we can do to protect the investment and the path towards citizenship on those by increasing the maturity of the fund by 1 or more years. Secondly, currently the closed-ended funds, the time to maturity were always taking consideration the golden visa, which, as Gonçalo mentioned, didn't change. So after 5 years, they can apply to the permanent residency and redeem and having the fund mature, which will preserve the path towards citizenship. And third and foremost, and one of the most important, is that we can address at the time and changing to open-ended fund with flexibility that allows 2 or 3 years, which doesn't fit probably any closed-ended fund that is raising capital at the time, to address the need of the investors. So I think all of the potential hazard that comes with this is clearly tackled within house.
Good. Nuno, I think you've covered this, but still, it's a topic that brings always a lot of questions. If you could address this, how secure and straightforward are golden visa investment funds for U.S. citizens? Can U.S. IRA and 401k funds be used for this purpose? Is the process seamless and recognized by the IRS?
Yes, well, again, all information that we have from the US is that US investors won't have any problem, although I always recommend the investors to be advised on US regarding that principle, right? Because we are not tax specialists, but obviously we are on the ecosystem. We receive a lot of clients. We speak with a lot of people, and if the things are well done, then the clients or the investors won't have much problems, whether in Portugal and in US, which is the most important point for them, because actually this is a vehicle for which they have been saving and contributing, and obviously they have also tax advantages, and they don't want to lose those tax advantages. So in principle, everything is okay, but that is something that the clients need to secure with their custodians, IRA custodians in US. Our perspective, and again, we speak to a lot of investors, we speak to a lot of tax advisors, and when the things are properly done, there is no problem. So regarding this, I mentioned before, so if you have an IRA, you can roll over into STRA and then execute investment from the STRA. If you have a 401k, depending on your employment situation, you can roll over into STRA and basically do the same, and the execution is more or less seamless. A bit more paperwork. Some clients, if the clients have already a STRA, is quite simple because he has already a custodian. If he has an IRA and he wants to roll over into STRA, he needs to open an account in a STRA custodian. So that takes more like a couple of weeks, but then the investment is also done in a seamless way.
Perfect, thank you. After 5 years and I receive my permanent residency, am I completely free to disinvest my 500k and keep my residency, Gonçalo?
Yes, I would say that for the sake of safety, I would wait for the card to be out, the permanent residency card. But in terms of the logical and the rules, you have the obligation to keep the investment if you have that possibility, depending a little bit on the vehicle that you choose in the beginning, you after 5 years you don't need to keep the investment. So when you change from a temporary residency title to a permanent residency title, the investment is not a need anymore, so you can redeem your amount. Typically, what we are seeing in clients that arrive to that point is that actually they don't redeem, they do different investments, or they just keep the investments. That is what we have seen in the market so far.
Thank you. Nuno, back to you. Are investors able to achieve EFC status through the investments? Whether it does or not, can the panelists comment on this new tax scheme? Our accountant says they have seen very little uptake and that it is too narrow to be beneficial to most people. Interested in your take and outlook.
Well, again, I'm not even a specialist in Portuguese tax, in the Portuguese tax system, right? So imagine in US. But our take is that I think the investor means PFIC and not IFIC. But I think
okay, maybe it's a mistake. What I have here.
The funds in Portugal and when it comes to 3 and C2, so the funds can be PFIC, so they can be considered PFIC. And the client can opt in for a qualified elected fund, which basically is more convenient in terms of the tax reporting into the US. For that, the asset manager in Portugal, that means C2 and 3 Capital, need to provide to the client enough information so they can basically convey with their accountant, and so the accountant can basically register and do all the paperwork with the US tax system. And yes, we are compliant with that. So our products, our investment products, our funds can be considered PFIC in US, and we deliver and provide all the information needed, namely the PFIC statement. So the client, and basically is its option, it can opt in for the qualified elected fund, which I think is more convenient. But again, I'm not in US, but that's basically what is on the common information. It's more convenient to qualify this type of investment in a QEF status. So there are some advantages in US tax.
Let me just add one thing, which is normally these statements are not, we take in consideration opinions from experts, and in our case the statement is performed by a Big Four that has presence in US, that is completely familiar with the tax system in US, that produces that document for us to deliver to our clients. So just to make sure that the statement is produced accordingly and it's not produced by Portugal.
Exactly, that makes perfect sense actually. Gonçalo, is NSM joining the recent movement with other law firms to fight the new rules? This is the hot topics. Yeah. My understanding is NSM has a singular view on how to react to defend clients' interests. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, again, I understand the number of questions on this. I think that we are not sleeping in that way. We know what we are doing and we know what we are advising the clients. We don't see the class actions and the group actions as a solution immediate solution for the clients at this point. We believe in the system, in the Portuguese judicial system. So our first movement will be waiting for a decision from the IRN. After that, if it's a negative decision, we will do a one-to-one legal action with the help of this big law firm that will have assisting us on this specific part. And that's the strategy that we believe makes sense at this point. Again, to create a good relation with the country, to create the right bounding. I think that step by step and not making too much noise around it is the right strategy. That's how we see it.
Thank you. Unfortunately, we are running out of time, so that was the last question. Before we close our session today, allow me to briefly recap the key takeaways. Portugal's new citizenship framework has raised the bar in terms of commitment and connection for nationality applicants, but it continues to offer a structured path for investors thinking long-term. Golden visa investors maintain residency rights and access to Europe and Schengen area countries. And as we've heard, there remains a strong appetite for Portugal as a destination that combines compelling investment opportunities with great quality of life. At the same time, the perspectives we've heard, both from the legal and fund sides, point to a market that is maturing rather than closing. One where capital is increasingly aligned with long-term value creation in Portugal's economy. For our viewers who would like to go deeper in the conversation, our team at NSM Lawyers and the teams at C2 Capital and 3 are available for one-to-one conversations to discuss your specific situation. You can also reach out to NSM directly via our contact details on the screen. Finally, thank you to all of our speakers for sharing your insights. Gonçalo, founding partner of NSM Lawyers, Francisco Amaral from C2 Capital, and Nuno Serafim from 3 Capital. Was a pleasure. I do apologize to our viewers for the technical problem we had in the beginning, but I feel we managed to finish in a good timing. I also want to show our appreciation and thank the team behind the scenes, without whom none of this would have been possible. Thank you everyone for joining us. We hope that you found this session valuable, and we look forward to connect to you soon. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.